Hello! In this video I'm going to be going over how to name compounds that have transition metals in them. Remember, transition metals are all of the elements that are right in between the S block and the P block elements. So the columns that's scandium through zinc, all of these elements that are in these columns. Alright, so what happens if you have a compound that has a transition metal? What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put a Roman numeral in between the name of the two elements in the compound, and that Roman numeral represents the positive charge of that transition metal. Alright, so doing an example, why don't we put FeO. So just like the basic rule, we're going to write the name of the first element, iron, and then we're going to write the name of the second element, but change the ending to IDE. So instead of oxygen, it's going to be oxide. And then we have a Roman numeral that we have to put in there because this is a transition metal and it can have multiple charges depending upon the situation. So what we do is we have no idea what the charge of iron is, but we do know what the charge of oxygen is. So the charge of oxygen here is 2 minus, because we memorized it, and we need to have an overall zero charge for this molecule. So in order to balance this 2 minus out, we're going to need a 2 plus. 2 plus 2 minus is 0. So since our iron has to be 2 plus, our Roman numeral is going to be 2, and the name of this molecule is iron 2 oxide. Doing another example, I have NiCl3. So that would be nickel. And then the second element, chlorine, change the ending to IDE, chloride. And since nickel is a transition metal, I'm going to leave room for a Roman numeral. And I'm not sure what the charge of nickel is in this situation, but I do know that chlorine is a halogen and it has a -1 charge, but there's 3 of them. So 3 times -1 is -3. Therefore, my overall positive charge needs to be +3. So nickel is going to be 3 in this situation. Doing another example, let's say I have Fe2S3. Fe2S3. So in this case, I have iron, which is a transition metal, so I need a Roman numeral, and sulfur, change the ending to IDE, is sulfide. So I have iron something sulfide. Again, I have to look at my anion, because I do know the charge of sulfur. It's in the same column as oxygen, therefore it's -2. But we have 3 of them. 2 times 3 is 6, so that's 6 minus. Therefore, my overall plus charge needs to be 6 plus, but iron, the Roman numeral, is not just a charge of the positive charge. It is a charge of just one of the transition metals. So I have to take my overall positive 6 charge and divide it by how many irons I have. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my charge of just one iron is 3, so I would call this iron 3 sulfide. Another way of doing it would be to do the reverse crisscross. If you have an even and odd number in your subscripts, you just take the number that's in the subscript, reverse crisscross, and that's your positive 3 charge, that 3. I usually do it this way just to be safe. Now in chemistry, when you have a rule, there's always exceptions to that rule, and this rule has no exceptions to that. What we have is scandium. Let me just point those out on this screen. Scandium, zinc, cadmium, and silver only have one possible charge that they could have. Therefore, they do not need a Roman numeral. So I'll just write that down. We have silver, cadmium, zinc, and scandium are all exceptions. Silver is +1, cadmium 2+, zinc 2+, scandium 3+, and those you're going to have to memorize because you're going to have something that may pop up like this, where we have CdCl2, you'll have to name it. This is cadmium chloride. Some people will be tempted to write a Roman numeral 2 there, but you wouldn't do that. You just write cadmium chloride, be done with it, because it's always a 2+ charge. Alright, now what I want to do is reverse it. So why don't we put something like iron (3) phosphide. So we have iron 3 phosphide. We want to write the molecular formula. So iron is Fe, phosphide represents P, and iron is a 3+ because of the Roman numeral 3, and phosphorus is right here. Nitrogen and phosphorus have a 3- charge, and it would be balanced in that case, and we'd leave it as FeP. Alright, doing another example, let's say we had copper 2 chloride. We want to write the molecular formula, so copper is Cu, chloride Cl. The Roman numeral is a 2, therefore copper is a 2+. Chlorine is a halogen, therefore it's a 1- charge. We crisscross it, so this 2 goes here and that 1 goes there, and we'd have CuCl2. It's the same thing as copper 2 chloride. And those are just a few examples of how to use the Roman numeral rule to name compounds that have transition metals.